Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Allah's peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet of Islam and his infallible Ahlul Bayt and household. Dear brothers and sisters all over the world, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to yet another edition from series of Quran and Today's Life. As you might have already been following these series of programs, we are trying to gain some information from the Holy Book of Allah. In fact, the things that which are needed for our today's life and our daily lives, they are some, let's say, beneficiary points, and inshallah will be used practically in our lives. We started discussing concerning the moralities in the Holy Quran, and more specifically, spiritual journey toward Allah. In our previous program, the respected expert of the show, Sheikh Misam, told us that there are 4 famous journeys towards Allah the Almighty. He, in fact, elaborated on each of them and told us what each journey mean, and told us concerning the steps or camps toward this, in fact, perfection, the most perfect existence, which is Allah the Almighty. Inshallah, in our today's session, we shall be continuing our discussion with the first journey from the creature to the creator, from al-khalq ila al-haq, and different things which are going to be needed, and it is needed for a salik and for a traveler in this way. But before starting a discussion and having our first question, I'd like to thank Sheikh Misam for his presence in the studio and say salam to him and tell him if he has any introductory remarks we'll be hearing.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to first of all say salam to our viewers and you also. I hope discussion will be beneficial for all,
inshallah, the
viewers and all, and also ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Sheikh Masam. Just to remind the respected viewers of this show, we said that there are 4 journeys. The first journey from the journey that you said it's from creature to the creator, and you said that there are some etiquettes for this journey. Can you please, at the very, let's say, beginning of this show, tell the respected viewers of this show that what is the overall image of this discussion like? That is, from, as you said, the first journey has some etiquettes and has some prerequisites and has some steps or camps. What are these things? I mean, can you please tell us a very, let's say, clear-cut picture of it?
For answering this question, I'd like to give an example.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, we spoke about 2 things in our journey. Some etiquettes and also some steps.
True.
That I said that there are some differences in the viewpoints of Gnostics and scholars in this issue, that how many steps do we have, how many camps do we have on this journey. And I said also that we are going to clarify the 7 journeys among these journeys that mentioned in different books, from which we mentioned some of them, 3 of them in the last program. In fact, we have some etiquettes and also some steps. The etiquettes are, they are like a car, that the transportation means the car that the traveler, Salik, gets and drives on this road to the destination. And those steps are just like caravansarais, that whenever the traveler, Salik, reaches to one of them, parks the car, gets inside, stays there, and the day after again drives the car to the next step.
True.
So these 4 etiquettes that I mentioned, musharata, muraqaba, muhasaba, and muaqaba, these 4 are like the car that the traveler has to have from the beginning to the end of the journey.
Very true.
And then the steps are, it's very clear that the steps are not something joining the traveler. After reaching to one step and passing it, you put it over. You put it aside and then go to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So the steps,
So
the
etiquettes,
camps that
etiquettes are like the car.
like the car,
And the
the camps-
camps are the steps that we are moving forward.
the caravanserais that yes, you move forward, you go, stay and move forward. So
Yeah.
this is the first
Yeah,
important
and
thing.
you said that concerning this for, let's say, etiquettes, that is musharata, muraqaba, muaqaba, and muhasaba. Are they only in the first, let's say, journey, or they are included in all the journeys? Since we are still trying to discuss the first journey, not more than that.
If you mean by journey, if you by journey mean those 4 different types
yeah.
of asfar al-arba, let me ask the viewers, forget about the 3 other journeys.
Mhm.
Only
The first
the
one
first
is,
journey, as-sayr min
is
al-khalq
intended,
ila al-haq.
yeah.
We are speaking, we are trying, and I said if one wants to just clarify all of these 4, lots of programs are needed
Exactly.
to
For
clarify
sure, yeah.
all of them. Because of lack of time,
Mhm.
we have to only clarify the first type of journey.
Okay.
السير من الخلق إلى الحق.
Mhm. Any point is needed to be said concerning the 4, let's say, elements of self-monitoring, muraqabah, muhasabah? Anything is needed here to be added to the previous discussion?
Let me just clarify more about the details of these 4 also, these 4 etiquettes,
Mhm.
these 4 adab. That these 4 etiquettes are the etiquettes that all jurists, and this is another amazing point, that the author of those books are jurists themselves, and also in fact the method of Gnosticism that we are trying to follow is in fact the method that all jurisprudence also agree with.
Mhm.
Unlike other ways, like Sufis, like other tariqat ways that some follow in the name of Islam, but in fact they are not Islamic, because if Sharia is not involved in mysticism, then there is no real meaning for mysticism or Gnosticism.
True.
Or ethics is something based on Sharia,
A
based
religion.
on Islamic rulings, without relation to Islam, or in fact in other religions also, without relation to the rulings of a religion.
Mhm.
One cannot follow, one cannot have ethics, one cannot go forward.
But maybe the other sects that you just mentioned, like, for example, Sufis and other sects, may claim that they are still following a Sharia, they are still following some principles of religion.
I just meant those who are not following the rulings of the religion,
Mhm.
in Islam or other religions.
Yeah.
I just meant that those.
So the
only
way that
few-
we are moving based on it is the religion of Islam and the
Based on-
principles of this religion.
That's it. So musharata and muraqaba, muhasaba, muaqaba has a main topic, and that is sin. And the sin is just not following, is just committing, is just not following the Sharia, the rulings of the religion. So this is the key point in our issue, in our discussion.
True.
And then the other point that I want to mention here is that there are also some recommendations that one has to follow, like some zikrs, some recitals. One has to have a good relationship, especially with Quran, which is the great zikr. Quran introduces himself as a zikr.
Yeah.
One has to have a good relationship with the zikr, which is Quran mainly, and other azkar, and that I'm not going to mention now, and inshallah in the future. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, we will discuss more.
Inshallah.
So this is another point that I wanted to mention in this regard.
Yeah.
And the other point is
So
that
something like dhikr is a helping element, isn't it?
is a helping element, like like a better fuel for that car,
Very true.
And the other fact, maybe the last prerequisite for our discussion to get into the first step, is that we are discussing in the environment of the virtue ethics in Islam. The conclusion of most of mystical books is that one salik is the one who is trying to fulfill the virtues in himself, trying to reject the vices. And this was the last prerequisite for our discussion. So,
what are these vices? What do you mean by these vices? I mean, wicked acts that he may commit
yes,
sometime?
of course. The vices are mainly the sins. Just to refuse, to reject the sins, to be, to monitor ourselves, not to commit a sin. And this is what most Gnostics, emphasize on.
Okay.
And if I'm allowed, let me get into the first step.
Yeah, please. Can you give us, let's say, an example for the wicked acts, or let's say for the excellences or virtues that you mentioned?
Oh, a very good question. Thank you very much. Let me explain this fact. In fact, Islam is the religion of moderation. Quran says, "I'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa." Be just. This is closer to piety.
Yeah, sure.
This being just, Quran is speaking of about justice. But one of the requirements of justice, to be just, i'dilu, is to, in fact, be moderate. Moderation is one of the most important requirements of justice.
Justice, yeah.
And this moderation is the virtue that we are going to speak about. And I'm also very grateful of your good question. That moderation is the virtue, and the vices that we are going to discuss about are the positive and negatively
violation from this moderation.
Yes, but this violation sometimes is
in the form of extravagance.
Is in the form of extravagance, and also
sometimes
it's in the form of the defect.
Or dissipation.
Sometimes you go beyond. Sometimes you, in fact,
you stay behind.
Stay behind of the virtue, the moderation.
What, as its, let's say, Arabic terms goes with ifrat and tafrit.
That is exactly ifrat and tafrit.
Thank you very much. Let's discuss concerning this example that you are talking about, inshallah, after a very short break. And if you agree, we can have a very short break. After that, we'll be with you with the rest of our discussion. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Quran and Today's Life and our discussion concerning moralities in Quran, and let's say from a Quranic perspective. We have been talking about the spiritual journeys that one may have in his lifetime, the journey towards perfection. The respected expert of the show was talking about the vices and virtues that one may observe in his lifetime. All prerequisites of the first step and, let's say, entrance of this journey. We have been talking about the example that you presented concerning the fada'il and rada'il, which equals to virtues and, let's say, vices. You mentioned moderation. You were talking about moderation. And I think your discussion was left incomplete. I will listening to the rest.
Let me just give a few examples, one or two examples about this moderation.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, for example, one clear virtue that all agree that this is a virtue is adala, justice. So this is a virtue that Islam is trying to lead the traveler into it. What is the other points which are considered as vices in relation with this virtue? For example, about this special, in fact, yes, virtue, which is adala, justice, the extravagance is to do what? Is to oppress others. And also the defect side of this virtue, which is also a vice, is to accept the oppression from others.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be on the moderate place, not to oppress others, and not to accept the oppression from others.
Mm-hmm.
The second example. For example, courage. To be courageous. All know that one has to be courageous. This is a virtue. This is a good adjective for anyone.
True.
Good attribute. To be courageous is a virtue.
Yeah.
But this is the moderation. What are the extravagance and also to be defect and disregard? The ethical terms for these two sides is jurbuza and also fear.
Mm-hmm.
If you go extreme, if you be extravagant, you will this attribute to extravagant, to be extravagant, to extravagance, to go extreme in this regard.
Yeah.
About courage is to be more courageous than needed. Maybe in some wars, someone go and do in the fights, in the battlefield, someone goes and does something which is not needed and will kill him.
Very true.
That is not accepted by Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you might be so fearful that you don't go to the battlefield. This is also not a moderate position for a Muslim. Mm-hmm. A Muslim must be ready to defend from Islamic lands whenever needed. When someone, this is the meaning of jihad, when someone tries to attack Islamic land, a Muslim has to be courageous and participate in the war in order to defend from Islamic lands.
But this courageous must be moderate.
Must be moderate.
It not
so
must
these two
exceed
are,
its limits.
I think by these two examples, to be, I think I could clarify how a salik, how the traveler should be moderate, should gain virtues, and what is the virtue. So the virtue is the moderation.
Very true.
And the vices are to go extreme, to extravagant, to be an extravagant, and also to defect.
Very true. One should be observant of these things.
Yeah. So this is the meaning of the virtue.
Exactly. So after that, I think if we are going to observe the steps also, it's the time to enter the travel, this trip.
Thank you.
Let's go to the camps, homes, let's say, whatever they are called in, let's say, Gnosticism. What are they called? As you said, the term goes with caravanserai. What is the first one? How can we enter it?
As in the first program, as I mentioned, the first step the first caravanserai is to get up. There is a hadith from one infallible that says, الناس نيام
فإذا ماتوا
إذا ماتوا انتبهوا. People are asleep. When they die, they just get up. They just wake up. Why is that? And I'm remembering another hadith, let me mention that. Another hadith says, Mutu qabla an tamutu. Die before you die.
What does it mean? Die yourself before you die, huh?
That is what I'm trying to speak about. That die, that imperative verb in this hadith, is just get up and start your journey before you die.
We should start this death from here.
And this annasu niyamun, people are asleep. This means that people are not aware. People are asleep. It means people are not aware. Another hadith says, رحم الله امرأ علم من أين وفي أين وإلى أين. May Allah bless the person who knows he's from where, in where, and toward where.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the meaning of being aware, that when people, just trying to arrange the material issues of their lives and only just, eating, how to wear the best clothes, how to eat the best foods, and how to, enjoy from this terrestrial life. This is the manner of the one who is not aware, who is asleep.
Is this awareness a step here?
Yes, of course.
The first step.
This is the first step. So
the first step is to get up.
Is to get up.
To understand where we are.
And where. So what does it mean to understand where we are? To understand that there is a journey. There should be a movement toward Allah. There is a destination that one has to reach in his life. Nevertheless, the life, this kind of life for humans is going to be like the life of animals. This is the meaning of awareness. This is the difference of human beings and animals, that they can be aware of their own lives. Not like animals, that they have their own environment, and they do their normal things without any change.
How can one be aware of these things? Should he himself aware himself of this, let's say, spiritual journey, or no, Allah will aware him? How can one, put the first step toward this awareness?
Thank you for the good question.
For sure, as you said, it's a good question, but it should be answered within at most 2 minutes, because we have less than 4 minutes till we finalize our discussion.
In fact, as I will explain more on the topic of repentance in the next program, inshallah.
Sure.
This is something started from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
This is a grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given to the mankind, all of them. But there are only a few of mankind who receive this grace of Allah. In many cases, people don't accept. There is a proverb in Farsi that says, the one who is pretending to be asleep, you cannot get him up. But the one who is asleep, when you shake him,
he will get up.
So,
so it is being given to all the human beings, to all the mankind, but some people rejected it. This is a blessing on the behalf of Allah the Almighty.
That's it.
Thank you very much. We have been talking about lots of issues here concerning the spiritual journey that we may be in need of. That is the etiquettes, let's say, as the its technical term goes, that is adab of the traveling or taking or entering this trip, and then we started talking about the homes, or let's say camps, that one may be in need to know for this important trip that he may have in his lifetime. The first step or the first camp was awareness. We started to discuss concerning this issue, but I think we have more to say about it in our next session. Once again, I thank you for your accepting our invitation to this show. Inshallah, we shall be continuing our discussion, and from here, I'd like to invite you to join us with the rest of our discussion in our next show. Till then, have a very good time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.